When you're staring at a cluttered desk and wondering whether a full-size tower is really necessary, the decision can feel a little intimidating. You want something that slips under a monitor, doesn't hog power, and still handles the day-to-day workload without a hiccup. At the same time, you're worried about ending up with a box that looks sleek but can't keep up when you open a spreadsheet, jump on a video call, and run a few background processes. I'm going to walk through the real-world experience of the Lenovo ThinkCentre 50Q Gen 5 Tiny, so you can decide if it's the right fit for your office or home setup. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the environment where a tiny desktop shines. I've seen these units mounted behind monitors in call centers, tucked into the back of a standing desk, and even placed on a small shelf in a home office where floor space is at a premium. The 50mm height lets you hide it behind a 24-inch screen with a simple VESA mount, keeping cables out of sight and freeing up desk real estate. For anyone who has ever tripped over a tower cable or needed to shuffle a bulky PC around for a client meeting, that kind of footprint is a genuine productivity win. What makes the Neo 50Q feel less like a novelty and more like a workhorse is the 13th Gen Intel Core i5-13420H. It's an 8-core chip that, despite the small chassis, delivers the kind of responsiveness you expect from a mid-range laptop. In my testing, opening a 30-page PowerPoint deck, launching Chrome with a dozen tabs, and running a local SQL query all happened without any noticeable lag. The 32GB of DDR5 RAM eliminates the memory-full warnings that can plague smaller business PCs, and the 1TB NVMe SSD gives you instant access to large files perfect for designers who need to pull high-resolution assets or accountants juggling massive datasets. The dual display support is another practical advantage. The unit includes 2 DisplayPort outputs, so you can drive 2 1080p monitors or a single 4K screen without needing an external docking station. I set it up with a 27-inch 4K monitor for photo editing, and the desktop handled the extra pixel real estate smoothly. For anyone who spends hours juggling spreadsheets and email across 2 screens, that out-of-the-box multi-monitor capability cuts down on both cost and desk clutter. Connectivity is where the ThinkCentre really leans into the enterprise-grade claim. Wi-Fi 6E brings faster, more stable wireless performance, which is noticeable if you're on a congested office network or a crowded home Wi-Fi band. The built-in Bluetooth 5.3 pairs quickly with peripherals, and the 8 USB ports, 4 on the front, 4 on the back, mean you can connect a keyboard, mouse, external drive, and even a USB-C hub without hunting for adapters. In practice, that translates to fewer headaches when you're trying to get a barcode scanner or a presentation clicker up and running in a rush. Now for the trade-offs that often hide behind the glossy marketing copy. The first is the lack of a dedicated graphics card. The i5-13420H includes integrated Intel graphics, which are fine for office work, video conferencing, and light photo editing, but they'll struggle with 3D rendering, modern gaming, or intensive video encoding. If your workflow relies on GPU acceleration, think After Effects, CAD software, or machine learning notebooks, you'll quickly feel the limitations. The second trade-off is upgradability. The tiny form factor means you can't swap in a larger SSD or add a second drive without opening the chassis, and even then you're limited to the space provided. The RAM is soldered, so the 32GB you buy out of the box is the max you'll ever have. For most small business users that's plenty, but it does lock you into a specific ceiling. Thermal performance is worth mentioning because a compact chassis can sometimes become a heat trap. Lenovo uses a custom fan and heat pipe layout that keeps the CPU temperatures under 80 C under sustained load, which is respectable for a device this size. However, if you're running continuous heavy workloads like batch data processing for several hours, the fans will ramp up, producing a low-level whine that can be heard at close range. It's not a deal-breaker for typical office tasks, but it's something to be aware of if you need a silent environment. Pricing is another factor that separates the satisfied buyer from the buyer's remorse. The ThinkCentre 50Q lands in the upper mid-range for tiny desktops, reflecting its high-end CPU, DDR5 memory, and enterprise-oriented Windows 11 Pro license. If you compare it to a comparable mini PC that ships with a less powerful processor and 16 GB of RAM, the price difference can feel steep. The value, however, comes from the combination of future-proofed memory, fast storage, and the built-in security features of Windows 11 Pro, things that IT departments appreciate for remote management and data protection. For a small office that wants a standardized, low-maintenance machine, that can be a cost-effective investment over the long term. Who should walk away? If you're a gamer, a video editor who relies on GPU-accelerated effects, or a developer who needs to run multiple virtual machines with dedicated